Taylor Shubert. I wanted you on the show because we were talking about an initiative that you started along with Daniel Nardicchio and the Gay Men's Health Crisis called the Fire Island COVID Destroyers. And I understand that the initiative started from the media representation that we saw that went on in Fire Island during the 4th of July weekend, where so many of our community were out having beach parties, house parties, and not wearing masks. And we got a lot of flack. New York City got a lot of flack because that went viral, and I understand the governor heard about it. How did you decide to work with, how did the Fire Island COVID Destroyers come about?
Well, it was actually Daniel's idea. We were both out on Fire Island for 4th of July weekend, minding our business at our house, and we were hearing all of these people say, oh, there's a party, and then people would show up to our door and say, oh, hey, you want to come with us to the party? And, there was just a lot of bad behavior. And what we realized was this bad behavior that a few people were doing, or a few hundred people of the thousands of people that go to Fire Island, that behavior was going to ruin the ability for us to have fun in our safe haven for all of us. So Daniel said, hey, we should take action. We should fight back against people who are behaving badly out in the Pines and in the Grove. And he kind of came up with this idea to hire drag queens, to hire go-go boys, and pass out masks. And it was all kind of born on that weekend.
Wow, and so you were actually there then on the 4th of July weekend and saw a lot of this happening in real time, correct?
Yeah, it was kind of nuts, and people just didn't really seem to understand the severity of the pandemic. And I get that. I mean, it's part of the culture of Fire Island. People go out there to socialize. It's a part of gay culture. So I understand that people want to let loose, but you still have to, COVID hasn't gone away. And so that's part of our strategy. We're not trying to tell people you can't go out to Fire Island, because people are going to go out to Fire Island. They deserve to be able to go out to the beach. They deserve to be able to, relax in one of the best places New York has to offer. And so our strategy is, let's just encourage people to do the right thing while they're out there. And so we're making sure that we're out on the boardwalks, out on the beach. We're going to be handing out masks. We're going to be handing out hand sanitizer, and encouraging people to have fun, to do it safely. And it's been a success so far. Our first weekend was really fun. People were really receptive. Everybody said, thank you so much for being out here. And it was a lot of people who are locals, a lot of people are out there for the whole summer. And so they saw the bad behavior on 4th of July weekend, and they thought, this is going to screw it up for the rest of us. And so they were really happy that we were out there taking action.
So when Daniel originally brought this idea up, I mean, you make a great point. I mean, we all love Fire Island. We all want to go. This is such an anomaly, a different type of a year that, how do you go to Fire Island and then not want to go to parties and go to the beach and go to, I understand the bars and restaurants are open. So was the plan to then come up with an idea to explain how it all came about, working with like the governor's office and then hiring go-go boys and drag queens?
So Daniel came up with the idea, let's hire these drag queens, let's hire these go-go boys. And I said, I'm going to reach out to my friends at the governor's office and see if they could help us out. And they were really eager to help, which is awesome. And it kind of shows how proactive this administration is. Cuomo, I love him. I think he's great. He wants to be able to stop the spread just as much as we do. We all want to get back to normal. And so some awesome people in his administration sent over masks and hand sanitizer literally the next day. So I called them on the Monday after 4th of July weekend, and the masks and hand sanitizer were at the ferry, ready to be sent over literally the next day. and they were thrilled about it. They said, anything that we can do to encourage people to have safe fun is, worth it. And so they sent over the masks and the sanitizer. We paired up with Gay Men's Health Crisis, and they immediately came on board. They gave us sex tips provided by the New York City Department of Health. And it just was like a magical marriage of a lot of different really proactive groups who don't want to see Fire Island turned into a kind of like police state, because that's the alternative. The alternative is that, Suffolk County Police come in and they start ticketing people who are, walking along the boardwalks and people who are congregating. And I just think that that's not the solution, especially right now in the era of, defund the police and kind of progressives are championing community enforcement and community-based safety protocols. What better time than to take this into our own hands to enforce safety on our own terms? And what better way to do that than with drag queens and with go-go boys? That's kind of the genius, I think, of Daniel Nardicchio, why I'm such a fan of his, is that he takes something that's so practical, handing out masks, handing out hand sanitizer, and he makes it sexy and fun. That's, I think, why it's so stigma-free, because it's like, if a cop walks up to you and says, "Hey, put on your mask," you're like, "Yo, dude, leave me alone." But if a drag queen walks up, it's like automatically fun. And if a go-go boy walks up to you,
it's sexy. Well, the other the other thing about just being sexy, I think you said being safe can be sexy, which I agree with you. The other thing is that you're giving a lot of these drag queens and go-go boys who normally would have been working in the bars, which obviously they can't right now. You're employing them with your GoFundMe page, and I put the link in our Tags podcast page where people can. You have a $10,000 goal, correct? And I think that is the brilliant of Daniel Nardicchio and you guys of what you're doing, because it's employing them too.
Right, and it's kind of we're making a difference in two ways. At least I hope that we are, not only by keeping Fire Island safe, but also by helping out our sisters and brothers in our community who have also been adversely impacted by the pandemic, just because they're not able to work. I think that you might have seen the Pines Commercial District is shutting down completely for what will be Pines Party weekend. And that's a lot of people who are going to be out of work. That's tips that they're not going to be getting. That is a ton of their financial security that's gone. And so I think what better way to give back to the people who give us so much entertainment year-round than to be able to employ them for a day, for 2 days, for a week, or 2 weekends of passing out masks. So not only are we helping them out and employing them, but also they are then continuing to give back to us by keeping us safe. So I think that it's an awesome cause. I really hope that everybody who's listening will go to our GoFundMe. Any amount will make a difference. And already we've employed 4 drag queens and go-go boy. We have go-go boy, multiple drag queens signed up for this weekend to be passing out masks and sanitizer in the Pines and in the Grove. So every dollar will make a difference.
Well, one of the things I know that you're doing that the initiative does is, like you stated, when people get off of the ferry, they'll be greeted by either a drag queen or people from the Gay Men's Health Crisis volunteering, offering hand sanitizers and face masks. But what about the parties that may happen on the beach, or what about private parties? Are you doing anything where you are going to kind of infiltrate out to some of these private parties where we know that a lot of people will congregate and perhaps not be socially distanced?
I mean, our goal is to make sure that everybody's being safe. Last weekend, our first weekend, nobody was partying because everyone was still on edge from the weekend before when everyone was so poorly behaved. So our hope is that people just follow the rules. So that's what we're encouraging. That's what we're telling people when they get off the boat. Hey, you guys can have fun. Keep it intimate, keep it well ventilated, and keep it kinky. That's what we've been telling people.
I like that.
Keep it intimate. Hang out with a small group of people while you're on the island. If you're going to hook up with somebody, make it one person. Keep it ventilated. If you're going to be in a group, keep it outdoors, because we already know that the spread of COVID is greatly reduced if you're in an outdoor space. Also, keep it kinky. We're saying wear your mask. It's hot. It's kind of like, we got like the box thing going on. If you're going to hook up with somebody, use a glory hole, avoid mouth to mouth. So we're already giving these tips when people are getting off the boat, and people love it. They think it's so funny. They think it's like a fun challenge. Like, all right, I'm going to find somebody and use a glory hole on the island this weekend. But our hope is that people follow those rules. If they're not going to follow the rules, if we see people on the beach, our hope is that we can get to them and encourage them to spread out, put on a mask, apply some hand sanitizer, and have fun in a safe way. Are we going to be walking into people's houses and screaming at them? No, but that was never our intention. Our intention was to persuade people with kindness. And, if we happen to find out that a house down the boardwalk is having a party, one of our queens is going to show up at the door and say, hey, here's some masks. Give them to the guys inside. Here's some hand sanitizers. Give them to the guys inside. Follow the rules, guys. Because the alternative is a cop showing up, shutting it down. We don't want that to happen. We don't want it to happen this weekend. We don't want it to happen in August or in September. We want it to be a nice, fun, long season. And I think that people following the rules will make that happen. We can have a good summer. We can make the most of it if we adapt.
I think it's so important what you're doing, and the other reality is that it's not just, everybody wants to have fun, but there's safe, sexy ways to have fun, and the other reality is that so many people from Fire Island then get back on the trains, public transportations, come back into the city, and we all know that our numbers here in New York have been quite good and level, but they are not going to be if we have spikes like this, and I think this is just going to help it when people come back to the city.
Right, and I work in a hospital right now. I was here through the whole pandemic, so I, of all people, do not want to see a second wave. The first wave was bad enough, and what we've learned a lot in the time that we've been fighting COVID, and we've learned that something as simple as putting on a mask makes the difference. And the reason why it spread so quickly in the first place is that New York is a really dense place. People are very close together, and we're in close proximity. It's how New York is. And unfortunately, that meant that COVID spread very, very quickly. And we can combat that by just making a couple really, really easy adjustments. And the easiest of all of them is putting on a mask. The second one is maintaining distance, and it's hard because, especially in the gay community, you run up to your friend, you're hanging all over them, we all make out with each other, that's the culture, so it's tricky, and nobody's expecting every single person to be perfect. It's not like when you're in your house on Fire Island that you're wearing your mask the entire time, and that you're staying away from your housemates. I mean, we're going to be honest here, that is not happening. It's that when you're outside, when you're around strangers, when you're in large groups, you need to obey the rules and stay safe. And so, we're the COVID destroyers are here to provide some friendly encouragement.
By our own really community, hopeful. Which I think is really key. And you mentioned a great point. Part of the fun of Fire Island is being outdoors, which we know, as you know, is less likely to transfer it, of course, socially distance, and then things like having your own social bubble can, if you're a household, I think can be, you're like you said, you're not always going to be 100% of the time without your mask, but if you're with your core group of friends in your social bubble, you can kind of maybe have some fun there, and then wear your mask when you're out, and just don't throw big parties. Taylor Shubert, I want to thank you so much for this initiative. Such great work, important that we need this. It's just an awesome thing that you're doing. I'm going to put the link up it's on our Facebook page. This show gets repackaged and goes out on our RSS feed, so everybody gets to hear it on a larger platform, and I'll do my part to get the word out so you guys can reach your goal, because I think it's such great work.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Take care then.
Awesome. Talk to you soon.
Bye.